Yeah. So this is the question, right? So the question that was posted only requested for the calculation of the horizontal range GH when it actually passes through the four vertices of the regular hexagon. The particle being thrown from G reaches H. Uh, but during the calculation, you'd realize that you require some more calculations in order to achieve the horizontal range calculation. So let's see what is the best way to solve the problem, right? So we cannot have a best way, right? So I'll give you my way of solving the problem. You might find this is a very famous question. Actually, it appeared in one of the school Olympiads, and there were many solutions in the web that you could find out. So I'll present my way, or our way, I should say, based on whatever we learned from the last week of vertical gravity and this week of projectile motion. So we'll try to keep it as visual as possible, the solution, instead of writing equation and steps. Okay, right? So let me zoom the question for you so that you can see it. Right, so let's move on to the next page for the solution. So I tried pre-drawing the required curve here, right, so that we can visualize it better. Um, some of the important markings that I will do, right? I know that in the question some things he has marked, so let me remark those things, right? So I'll take the origin as the point of projection as usual. That is the recommended thing, right? So I'll take the origin as, let's say, letter O, okay? And the final position where it hits, let's call it as O prime, right? It's symmetric curve about O prime. And then I'll mark my vertices as A, B. I know the vertices given in the question are different, so but I would like them in this manner. Okay, so not only that, the topmost point of this particular projectile motion, I'll mark it as H. H is a point represents the maximum height, right? So, and if I drop a projection onto the x-axis, x-axis is my bottom white line, right? So if I try to drop a So I'm just, I hope you can see that line, right? Since it is symmetric about O prime, it should be symmetric about AF, and therefore this bottommost point, which I will, let's suppose I'll mark some more lines for my convenience. Another line I'll join B, okay, right, just for convenience, okay, right. So there are three places where this important point line cuts, okay. So let me mark those points. I'll call this intersection as H1, this point. Can you see that? That point as H1, and this point as H2, and the bottommost point as H3. So these are the three important points which will be part of my solution. Okay. Not only that, if you remember week back when I was introducing the pictorial diagrams of the vertical motion, I'd like to take flower brackets as the notation for the time duration of motion, right? So flower brackets for the notation of the time duration of motion. Okay. One very important thing that you can realize here is that if I mark these lines also, from C it will fall onto A, and from D it will fall onto F. Okay, right. So these important lines, you could clearly see that this part, maybe you can just mark this as H4 and this H5. Okay, you could see the B line is cut off into four parts. Okay, so let me mark the parts there. This part should be equal to this part, should be equal to this part, should be equal to this part. You can clearly see that scenario, right? Each of these parts, if let's suppose the side of hexagon, I know in the question he gave it as A is represented for the acceleration, so I would take side as S is much better for me. Okay, right? So I think each of these markings that I have done, right, I'll write on the side. BH4 is equal to H4 H2 should be equal to H2 H5, and all of it equal to h phi e, and each of this is s by 2. I think you can clearly realize that. Okay, right, each of this is s by 2. So then I'll make a statement stating that for the curve BC to be covered during this motion, this part of motion, so can you see from here to here, B to C, when the particle is going, it covers a horizontal distance of s by 2. Okay, right, and from C to H it again covers a horizontal distance of s by 2. I think it does so for H to D and D to E individually also. And if it, you already know that horizontal motion or horizontal components of the motion are uniform motion, uniform velocity motion. So equal displacements in horizontal directions are always covered in equal intervals of time. Okay, equal displacements are always covered in equal intervals of time, which means time taken from B to C should be equal to C to H, should be equal to H to D, and should be equal to D to E. Okay, so let me mark that individual times from BC, CH, HD, and DE as a part of my calculation as a variable t. Okay, right. How do I mark it? I mark it using the diagram like this, which you'll appreciate, I guess. So the flower bracket represents the time duration of travel between B and C. If I mark this as t, okay, I think all these are respectively t. So this would be t, and this would be t, and this would be also t. Okay, right. I can't say the same thing from O to B or E to O prime. These are not again t's, right? Because we don't know what is the horizontal gap that this has traveled from O to B. So that's another variable that is not t, right? So maybe I'll call it as some t naught or something like that. So this part I'll mark it as T naught, which would be the same on the other side because of symmetry. Okay, so if I can get individually the values of T naught or T and both, I'll be able to calculate what's the value of the time of flight. And time of flight, once it is revealed, I think a lot of things get revealed in this particular problem. Okay, right. So one another interesting part that you could notice is that in the vertical projection of this problem, right? So let me erase the side so that I can project it. So I'm taking out this part. Okay, this part I'm taking out because we have already noticed that this is s by 2, right? Each of these is s by 2, so I'll just need some space here, right? So I'm erasing that part out. And I'll take that s by 2 into the figure so that we don't lose the sight of that. So each of this marking in yellow is s by 2. Okay, so I marked it there. Right. So what I'll try to do here is to project this onto a vertical line, right? So because you can think that as the particle moves on this parabolic path, it projects a laser onto y-axis. So let me mark a y-axis here. So imagine this is your y-axis. Okay, right. So when the particle is at H, it marks a projection here. When particle is at D, it marks a projection here, right? Or instead of marking it here, can I say if a particle is at any of these places, it marks a projectile onto this line also? Can you see this particular line is actually parallel to this line. So instead of drawing it as a separate line here, you can talk of projectiles projections onto this particular line here. Okay, right? So when H to D it moves, that projection, right, or the shadow or whatever component that you can think has fallen from H to H1. Okay, and then from D to E as it moves, that projection falls across a height of H to H2, H1 to H2, and then from E to O prime it moves, it falls off from H2 to H3. Okay, so the same points I'll mark there for my reference. Okay, right, so this is, let's say, your H, this is your H1, so here, and this is your H2, and this is your H3. Okay, right. So whatever happens in this figure, I think I should be able to take the same time durations to happen on the right hand side. Here also the same time duration should take place. So which means this should take place in time t and this should take place in time t. Okay, right. Now, what are the vertical displacements that occurred, right? HH1, I don't know how much it is, right? So I'll think of this as maybe some small h that I don't know. Okay, right, small h that I don't know. And what about this displacement? Is this a known? Let's check. I think it is known, right? This gap is equal to this gap, right? This gap, which in this right angle triangle, right? Can you see a right angle triangle here? This being S and this being S by 2, I think this should be equal to root 3 S by 2, right? So this I'll borrow here and mark this as root 3 S by 2. Okay, right. I think now something is very clear here, that using that Galileo's law of odd numbers, you remember if a particle is dropped from rest in equal intervals of time, it covers a displacements of 1:3, if you remember, right? So using that law that we discovered last week, that 1:3:5 in equal intervals of time, the value of h is to root 3 s by 2 should be 1:3. Okay, right? 1:3, right? And which implies the value of h comes out to be s divided by 2 root 3. So you got this height. You got this height, right? Right. So what is the total height therefore? Value of total height should be equal to the value of h1 plus h1 h2 plus h2 h3. Okay, right. H1 is this number s divided by 2 root 3 plus each of these numbers are equal to that root 3 s by 2, right? So 2 times of root 3 s by 2. So the total height of the projectile, maximum height or whatever you want to call it, you immediately realize that this is equal to s by 2 root 3 plus root 3 s. Okay, right? S by 2 root 3 plus root 3 s. And so s of 1 by 2 root 3 plus root 3. Right. So which can be modified as, how much is that h max? H max comes out to be 7s divided by 2 root 3. So this is your h max. This should imply that time of descent is equal to square root of 2h max divided by g. Time of descent should be square root of 2h max divided by g, and that should be, just substitute that h max there. You would end up having root 7s divided by root 3g. So this is the time of descent. Now what is the time of descent? I think time of descent is nothing but I can borrow even this t naught projection onto this diagram, right? So this would be again t naught. So is this plus this plus this the time of descent? And what's the value of this t also? This t is nothing but the time fallen for root 2h by g. Okay, right. And how much is the value of h here? I'll just borrow it here, and that would be equal to root of s divided by root 3g. So you found the value of small t, you found the entire value of t plus t naught. So I'll use those two numbers here. So the total time of descent is nothing but small t naught plus 2t, which is equal to root of, I'll just borrow that blue colored thing, 7s by root 3g. Okay, right. And there, and value of t naught plus 2 times of, what's the value of t that you got on the top? Root of S by root 3g. Root 3g is equal to the same root 7s by root 3g. Okay, so let me write the value of t naught. Therefore, t naught is equal to root of s by root 3g times of root 7 minus 2. So what's the importance of this? You got the time duration. You got the time duration for this part. You got the time duration, which means you have an estimate of how much horizontal distance it has traveled, right? Because all these time ratios are nothing but the horizontal gap ratios. Okay, so let me mark that point as some unknown x that you had. This was some x. I have a understanding of now OX length. Okay, so can I say OX projection travels for T naught period, and whereas XA, which is nothing but S by 2, travels for T period. So I will directly write OX divided by XA should be the ratio of their times taken, because it's uniform motion along x-axis, T naught divided by T. So that should immediately imply the value of OX should be ratio of T naught and T, right? Where are they? T naught is here. T naught is here and T is here. Can you see in the green? This is the blue T naught and the green inside is T, right? I need to take. So can you see that this green root of S by root 3g and this outside one will just get cancelled, leaving out the ratio of this number. That's why this was very important factor. Okay, right? So which means it is equal to XA, which is nothing but S by 2 times of root 7 minus 2. Okay, right? So we ended up here as of now. Okay, so we got OX now. Therefore, the total horizontal range now is nothing but OX plus XA plus A. I think all these are S by 2. So how many S by 2s are there? This, and this, right? And another S by 2 here. So there will be 4 S by 2. So 2S, and then there will be 2 OXs. Here there will be X prime, which will be mirroring this thing. Okay, so the required answer for the horizontal range R is nothing but, I think 2 OXs will be there and 4 S by 2s will be there. Okay. So 2 OXs are S into root 7 minus 2, and then there is a 2S which nicely cancels off and gives you an answer of root 7S. So this is your final answer. Not so straightforward, and I think, yeah, you could have done it using some equations, but I would just wanted to exploit the vertical projection motion and use some sort of symmetries that are happening in a regular hexagon. Okay, so that's the reason why I took this way of solving the problem. There is a sequence in which we went, so that sequence may not be visible from the picture that I have drawn. So I would request you to actually go through this problem all over again when I post the video, and then try to convince yourself for how we got this. So the original Olympiad question actually asked all the possible values. Like they asked what is the time of flight. I think time of flight is twice the time of descent that you got. Okay, whatever you got. So that was one part of the question. And then they asked what's the value of this OX. They also asked what is the angle of projection. I think with all these numbers known, I think angle of projection is not a difficult thing to calculate for. Okay, right. So this is how the question panned out.